Hey, it's Erica. Welcome back to the Broken Child Chronicles. We're still in season one. This is episode 4, and today I have with me Miss Kendra. How you doing today, Miss Kendra?
I am doing wonderful, Erica. How are you?
I am well. I am well. Thank you so much for being a part or one of our interviewees and telling a part of your story.
And
So, Miss Kendra, what does trauma mean to you when you hear the word trauma?
when I hear the word trauma, to me, it means broken or disconnected, unable to reach something. Um, Trauma to me means blockages, um, of, or disconnecting emotionally, spiritually, and physically. Some disconnect there, and all of those.
So, I know that you have went through a significant amount of trauma, Ms. Kendra. Um, what age frame are you going to be zooming in on within this interview?
The age ranges are um, childhood to early adulthood to now.
Okay. Okay. So go ahead and tell your story, Ms. Kendra.
um, I've been, I suffered many layers of abuse and trauma. For me, but I also was held up on a pedestal, so my trauma story relays a little different in my life at times. It also helped me to succeed a lot and to come through the trauma because I always knew that I could do it.
Right.
I was always told that I could go, right? So yes, I did. But being a young child, I just came into remembrance of this not too long ago, but I was sexually abused, and it I was sexually abused by a woman in my family, and so the story immediately was different from others around me,
Right.
because it's opposite sex that they have the story of, and I don't remember anything happening. I just remember when it stopped. So, and then I just remember being having this wonderful childhood, right? Um, so, but it the abuse has many different layers, especially sexual abuse. It leads into emotional abuse, and my father was verbally abusive, and but it and that led me to marry men that were abusive. My first marriage was very abusive. I suffered a broken nose, a jaw, a collarbone. I almost lost my second child. It was very abusive. The second marriage was abusive also, which was surprising to me because I was like, what I went through before. Um, my third marriage was I was the abuser because that was all I was taught.
Mhm.
Whenever things would flare in that marriage, um, I was the verbal abuser. So acknowledging those there and the turmoil that even I caused because I didn't know how to react. But what I did know is that when I was unsafe, it was okay to move. um, I definitely knew that. So I had flight down pat. Like, whoo,
Mhm.
go! It's time to go. Yeah, yeah. But
So,
I did.
with the abuse that took place in your childhood, are you still in contact with that family member?
That family member has passed, but
Okay.
also very influential in my growth. Very supportive, very um, admiring, very loving. Just so I have a little bit of confusion around that. Like, how am I really supposed to like? So the way that I've just ingested it was like, okay, don't know, not sure, but I love flowers. I love this, and so like
Right.
wrap it in love because that was what I was taught. So I wrap it in love and send it away. Um,
Okay. So how did, because I'm hearing you saying that this person that took you through that trauma was also a major support system in your life. How confusing was that? After the abuse stopped, was the relationship awkward? How did all that pan out? Did you tell anybody?
I never told anyone. I remembered it within the last like year or two. I didn't. It wasn't. And so now, being an adult now, I understand the pattern that continued through my life. and but because I think it made me feel abandoned in a way, but it also so I over excelled in everything else, like academics and anything I tried to do. So it just when she was alive, I did because I knew because that's where my adoration came from. So it just replaced it. It was replaced.
So, and you said your father was verbally abusive?
Yeah, my father was. He also was schizophrenic, but he was extremely intelligent. So he was like, but for him, he was always he. I think in a way, I felt like my sisters say I'm very twisted with this mindset because they um, say no way at all did I. Um, no way at all should I have received what I received. I did nothing to receive it at all. So they tell me, don't carry this with you and stuff. But that's also something that I walked away too, or I thought that I did. Right? So I was like, who is this person that keeps blocking out these memories? I'm thankful for them because it still allows me to shine every day. But I don't know how I was able to almost to say other protective personality that just kind of like releases and takes over and goes there. But my prayer life has always been very strong. So, I've given it to God, given it to higher source and say, thank you. And I've got to keep going. Yeah.
So, would you say that the verbal abuse that you took from your father, um, kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? It skewed your vision of what a man looks like or what to accept from a man?
Yes, it did. It definitely did.
Hurt people. And I see you said you were married 3 times. The first 2 times were abusive to you, and the third time you were the abuser. And they say that people who were witnesses or victims to abuse are 10 times more likely to be an abuser or to be abused again. And I can definitely relate to that, having the background that I had and the things that I witnessed in my childhood. It definitely develops a skewed mindset in the way life works and what is okay and what's not okay. So with those abusive relationships, how did you get out?
He, I was, my children were the reason I got
How many children do
out.
you have?
I have two. My each time I was like, wow, I don't want them to see this. I don't. I didn't mean for you to see this. This is not what I want you to think like this, because I didn't grow up seeing marriages like that. I saw what I thought were very, very loving marriages. Right. That's
Mhm.
all they. So, so I was, and but yeah.
So your first marriage, how old were you when you went through that marriage?
I got married very young. I was 20 years old,
Did you say
and
20? Oh, you were fresh. You were a spring chicken getting married. How
oh,
difficult was that?
That was a shotgun. That's it was terrible. It was. I got all the way there. I was like, no, I don't want to do this. But that was when my grandmother was still alive, and she said, you must, right? You did this, you created this, you must do this. And he and I were more like brothers and sisters than not the respective husband and wife.
Mhm.
So we fought.
And how long did that marriage last?
That lasted almost 7 years.
Was it always abusive?
Hmm. Yes, it just graduated in stages.
And then your second marriage, how old were you with that marriage?
I was 26, 27.
Okay. How did the abuse that you went through in your childhood and the abuse that you went through in your two marriages, um, how did that change the way that you operate on a day-to-day basis, or how did that affect the way that you parent, or did it affect the way that you parent?
It made me very protective of my children. I still am, ex- very loving, very understanding. We talk, we are able to converse about everything. So I really wanted to instill in them that I was there, everything, mom, friend, hey, I'm here, talk to me, whatever you need. So in case they ever went through anything such that I was going through, we could talk about it, and they would have a safe place.
Right. How did you heal from your abuse? And how long did it take you to heal?
I'm still healing.
Thank you for your honesty.
what has what has always kept me is that I know I had to be strong for my children. What has always been a stronghold for me are the ethics and values and truths that were instilled in me when I was young. What the things that have kept my sanity as I've gotten older have been to turn what I do into um, as in what I say, what I encompass my whole day, including what I do to make money for my financially for my family. Has it all encompasses joy. Um, Again, I just constantly wrap things in love, and then so outside of my prayer life, I felt like I still needed something else because I wasn't feeling still as stable. So many shifts in my child's disease and these marriages, and I knew that, and I learned to, through, I began to take, I knew I needed to kind of balance myself more. So started looking into more holistic and spiritual practices down in that avenue, more leaning towards the earth and nature, things that I love, right? And my sisters were like, hey, there are other people like you. I'm like, what are you talking about? They're like, people that like to run around with no shoes and grass and enjoy the rain and, talk to trees and stuff. And I was like, there are other people like me. And because I always been like the black to the family because they're like, you like to play with the dirt? I'm like, yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yes.
And, and so I learned about Reiki, the energy, and became and studied that, and I began to practice and slowly became a master as much as I enjoyed it. So I could learn to teach and express to other people how they can begin to balance themselves at the core when there's so many traumatic, energy shaking things. And the trauma begins to unfold in many different ways. And mine began to unfold in illness. I developed Crohn's disease, you know, the head gut syndrome kind of thing. But I developed it during between the first and the second marriage. The second marriage ended sooner, which I'm glad it did, because my Crohn's disease had developed. It was undetermined what was wrong with me because during my first marriage I was bulimic. So my second husband knew for certain that that's all that was happening. But the trauma had caused this genetic disease to implode in my body, and I wasn't able to eat. I wasn't able to do anything. And excuse me for a second. Um, I had dwindled down to 96 pounds, and the doctor said, "Hey, Kendra, this is all in your mind. We've been to psych appointments. We've talked about your childhood. You know, you got to blah, blah, blah. You know, I'm hungry. I want to eat. This is not on purpose." And I went, my husband, again, threw me down the stairs. It tore my intestines. And my son was 12 at the time, very tall football player, always driving because his dad's a mechanic. And he drove me to my mother's house, which was an hour away. And I had a stick too. I had a 5 speed. I was like, "There's no way." I was hurting. And all the hospitals in the area we were in were set for me to go to a psych ward, and we went through again this trauma, the disease, and then abuse on top of it. It was they thought, back, this was 20 years ago, 25 years ago. Okay, so they thought that I had some rare cancer, and I was in the hospital for a long time. And just it's. I'm thankful for spirit also that my children don't carry this trauma with them. They are the most loving creatures ever. However, my daughter does have a genetic disorder, I'm for certain that a lot of that was trauma in the womb for her. And going into Reiki energy was what I've done to kind of help also balance her energies during seizures and things like that. And then yoga came to save my sanity. Meditation is awesome. It helps with the um, past things, and it helps with watching her disease progress and seeing her life being um, exhausted. But all of this sounds, it should be so crushing. But my soul is not here to be crushed. It's not. Because it's definitely been attempted, the attempt to extinguish it has been. But I understand that I'm here to show people how to love, even through these things. And that love isn't, it's not, it doesn't have to hurt, it doesn't have to destroy you. It can build you. And if you love yourself, like, I had to know that I am wonderful. Right? So that's why I say, like, it's healing is, we're all, we're beautiful like stained glass windows. Like, we're gonna have fractures, we're gonna have these things. And you can't get stuck in your healing. They're levels, right? So you go through these things and you keep going. And eventually it'll mend over. The scar always be, so you'll remember. But you learn that it doesn't hurt anymore. So, and it takes time. And you walk through that every day. Every day you walk through it. You get through the big stuff, right?
True.
Still a little bit of, oh yeah, I forgot I stubbed my toe a long time ago. But you know what I'm doing.
At what point did you realize that you were ready to heal? That you were done with feeling like the victim, you were done carrying that load and you wanted to release it?
When I did some therapy on myself, I'm learning all this stuff so I can help other people. I was like, reflection, mirror, hey, this, you. So I took time just to work on myself and work on my energies, and I journaled a lot. It's been a couple of years that I really took the time to like just sit back and work and love Kendra and realize who I was. The biggest turn was a change in my daughter's illness, and I was like, wow, she loves me so much, and all she wants to do is see me happy. I have to be the best me for her. So she is the reason, honestly, for a lot of things that I do. My son is funny. He's like, "You love her more." I'm like, "No, I don't. It's just a lot of things that she'll never be able to do." So, and I know that I am who she sees every day. I'm who she talks to every day, and she's living. I want her to live vicariously through me, and to do that, I have to. I want her to have the joy of life. So I was like, no, she, this is not what she does. She doesn't need to see mama cry. She doesn't need to see that. No, no, no. Mm-mm.
So how old was your daughter when you were going through
She was going through starting to change.
that? Mhm.
She was about 17 or 18.
Do you think that witnessing that trauma affected either one of them?
Mm-hmm. I do. I really do. Um, my son definitely is. He's very loving. He chooses women, though, that are very unsure of themselves because he's unsure of himself, too. So I do my best to, and he's unsure of himself because um, his dad has always said, don't, but he thinks his mom is great. So even he'll be 30 soon, it's still there for him. But he's a wonderful father. Like his children adore him, and his the women always do. They're just not used to that. He gives such an he's such an a he get he I'm let's say this. We as women with our sons, we instill in them the love that we want them to give to another woman, right? I know the way that he loves these women that I've done a good job. But but he's also because of his trauma, he's attracting trauma, right?
Right.
So and he only knows like his mom. I gotta fix this. Let me see if I can fix this. And
Mhm.
he's like me. He's like let me see if I can help you. But and then Allie, her disease just when I am still and peaceful and everything is great, her disease is there. When I am not, she worries and it progresses. So I know that I need to. So she, so I'm like, if anything was a reason,
And what message would you give to people who have went through the childhood trauma that you have went through, or to women who have been through that domestic violence situation, or are still in that domestic violence situation?
love is everlasting. Love is healing. Love yourself. Look at yourself every day in the mirror and love yourself.
Well, Miss Kendra, I thank you so much for your time today. I appreciate you telling your story. You are very strong. You are very strong. And I commend you for healing the way that you have and for sharing your ways of healing through your yoga and your meditation. You are a wonderful woman. So that's all the time we have today, guys. This is Broken Child Chronicles, Season 1, Episode 4.